Chapter 112, Crescent Moon Peak, 2 days later. On a snowy mountain, Sanchi carried Liu Wuxia and walked on the snow. They looked as light as a feather, but because his essence energy was extremely strong, every step he took would melt the ice and snow on the ground. In the end, there were still marks on the snow. How cooling! This is a good place to cultivate. Sanchi let out a breath of hot air. Curious, he could sense the dense ice spiritual chi in the air from the surrounding snow mountains. It's beautiful. Liu Wuxia picked up a handful of snow and placed it in front of her nose. She sniffed it and revealed a peaceful expression. Ever since she came to the world of ice and snow, she had felt peaceful and especially comfortable. Young master, you cultivate the power of masculine yang. Logically speaking, you should feel uncomfortable coming here, right? Big Smart followed behind, panting. I am yang in nature, but I also need the power of the yin to balance it. Do you understand the yin and yang balance? With his hands behind his back, Sanshisuke suddenly landed in the distance. A strange mountain peak that looked like a crescent moon set at the end of the road. They were already above the mountain range. The crescent-shaped mountain peak was nearly 1,000 meters above the mountain range. It looked beautiful and tall. The mountain emitted a faint luster, and some buildings could be seen. The nearby void was slightly distorted, and it was obvious that there was a powerful ray formation protecting it. We still have to climb for a long time to reach. Sanchi was helpless. Ever since he entered the mountainous area and reached a certain altitude, he could no longer use his flying sword. This was still the problem with the Dharma artifacts. The flying height of the Dharma artifact was limited. As for his trash flying sword, it could only fly about 1,000 feet high. No matter how high the altitude was, it could not fly. Therefore, they had walked up the mountain just now. Elder Yuan's blanket Dharma artifact could not fly after reaching an altitude of 3,000 feet. He estimated that the other party's Dharma artifact was a mid-grade Dharma artifact. High-grade Dharma artifacts should still be able to fly at their current height. At most, they would only not be able to fly to the crescent-shaped mountain. Don't be anxious, young master doesn't know that after approaching the Yamun Palace, flying if you are below the Golden Core realm is prohibited. We only need to walk another 100 miles at most. Just as Elder Yuan said this, she realized that Sanchi had taken out a palm-sized white boat. Cloud patterns were engraved on it, and the aura it emitted made her pupils constrict. High-grade flying Dharma artifact. She looked stunned, yet Sanchi threw the small white boat. The latter shone brightly and expanded in the snow. It quickly transformed into a 30-foot-long, normal-size flying boat that floated in the air. Based on this characteristic alone, it could be determined that the level of this flying ship exceeded mid-grade Dharma artifacts. This was the Cloudbreaker, which he had obtained from the system's lottery draw. It was his first time using it. Looks good. Sanchi was very satisfied. The boat was exquisitely made and engraved with cloud patterns. It looked very beautiful and immediately attracted Liu Wuxia's attention. Young master, is this yours? Liu Wuxia touched the flying boat curiously. She was knowledgeable and knew that this flying boat was extraordinary. Elder Yuan looked at Sanchi in a daze. Aren't you a secret cultivator? These Dharma artifacts are very expensive. They are several times more expensive than Dharma artifacts of the same grade. Yes. I once attended an auction with the elders of my family. This kind of flying ship costs more than 10,000 spirit stones. Liu Wuxia nodded and stared at Sanchi with her beautiful eyes. Young master, you're so rich. Which senior gave it to you? She could not help but think of the martial arts cultivation technique that Sanchi cultivated. It definitely involved a powerful senior. Yet. Sanchi nodded. There are some things that I can't say. All you need to know is that the item is mine. Just sit in peace. He raised his hand and shot out a stream of essence energy to activate the Cloudbreaker. Instantly, there was a buzzing sound, and a gentle white light scattered out as the flying ship approached them. Sanchi carried Liu Wuxia and jumped onto the flying boat. Elder Yuan did not stand on ceremony and followed closely behind with Big Smart and Mei Niang. In the next moment, white light shone brightly. The flying ship quickly moved and rushed into the sky. It flew towards the mountain gate at a very fast speed. Why do I feel that this flying ship is not restricted at all? Sanchi was surprised and asked, Elder Yuan, how do we calculate the height limit for flying Dharma artifacts? How many soaring runes are engraved on this observation device? The more there are, the higher the flying limit. If it forms an array formation, it will be no problem to soar 100,000 feet into the sky. Elder Yuan sized up the Cloudbreaker. It shouldn't be a problem for your flying ship to reach a height of 10,000 feet. However, the higher you fly, the more essence energy and cultivation you will need to consume. You have to be mentally prepared. I see. I was just curious about what determines the height of flight. Sanchi came to a realization and continued to inject power into the Cloudbreaker. With a swoosh, the flying ship turned into a ray of light and passed through the clouds in the sky. Its speed was 10 times faster than flying on a sword. Before long, it arrived at the foot of the Crescent Mountain. Before you go any further, stop. Don't get too close. There's an array formation protecting the mountain peak. You'll bump into the array formation barrier and even attract an array formation attack. Elder Yuan reminded. Okay. Sanchi stopped in time and sized up the strange-looking mountain peak curiously. He did not feel like it was naturally formed. This is the outer sect of the Yao Moon Palace, Crescent Moon Peak. It has the same name as the first realm in our Yao Moon Palace's foundation establishment, cultivation technique. Elder Yuan introduced with a smile and looked at Liu Ruxu. You should be more familiar with this place. Yes. Back then, we stayed here for half a year. After successfully reaching the beginner stage of the moon invitation technique, we were then arranged to train in various places. Liu Ruxu smiled, then glanced at Sanchi. I didn't expect to return so soon when I left. Wait, such a huge mountain is only the outer sect. The more Sanchi looked at it, the more shocked he became. Although the mountain peak was like a slanted crescent moon and was a little thin, it was still very large. Young Master San, do you think our Yao Moon Palace is very small? Elder Yuan could not help but laugh. As one of the 9 special sects of Great Jin, we occupy 100 miles of land near the Heavenly Moon Mountain Range. This was when Great Jin ruled the cultivation world. Now that the world is in chaos, if we wish to, it will be easy for us to expand our territory by 10 times. Sanchi was deep in thought. He had learned about the sect's classification from the ancient books. There were ordinary first, second, and third grades, as well as special grades that exceeded first grades. If he entered the Yao Moon Palace, would it be equivalent to entering the top academy in his previous life? Young Master, the Yao Moon Palace is very big. What we see now is only a small portion. We don't have the right to see the rest yet. Liu Ruxu reminded him softly. Young Master, don't react like this next time. You'll be laughed at if others hear you. Sanchi's face twitched. He seemed a little like a country bumpkin. At this moment, a gentle male voice sounded. Elder Yuan, you're back so soon? Looks like everything went smoothly. Sanchi looked in the direction of the voice. Amidst the fluctuations in the air, a door formed and a pretty Wo walked out.